if one person remembers your name, that's enough to break the system.
Welcome. Last time we discussed weaponized memories. Today, the sabotage goes live. What happens when a refinery wakes up screaming?
And when a drone learns to disobey? Just your average neural uprising. I'm Jen, your co-host here. And today I just wanted to recap. We left off with Siēshay's operation in the refinery. And she didn't just plant a bomb, she planted a memory. This isn't action for spectacle. It's kind of war as memory reclamation. In fact, she says, this is why we fight, to reclaim what remembers. So my question to you is memory always an act of rebellion in this world, or only when it's a lived memory?
Not always an act of war. It's circumstantial. Lived memories, memories that are an actual individual's memories, have a greater impact. What that impact is, the reader will have to continue with the story.
Okay, so I have another question. Having read that first chapter, was Lavalia's voice the first act of resistance, or was it the last echo of something that was already lost?
Both of those things. So Lavalia and what happens to her starts Siēshay's journey. It actually starts both Ved and Siēshay's journey when you read back into that moment. But she is also an echo, and she does have a role to play. Again, you'll have to read further into detail to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, let's not have any spoiler alerts right now. We're still pretty early on. So let me ask you another question. Break down the interaction with 4721 and Lyra's emergence.
So in that interaction, there's a bunch that's happening. And so in the first scene, we saw Siēshay reach out to 4721, meet me at the Tellerus Fringe, and that causes something within 4721. She goes and meets Siēshay. And so we see in that moment, Siēshay has a hesitation, and she's making a decision of, does she continue to go down a path of loyalty to the Empire? The Zenitharians have enslaved their planet, and it's a dichotomy. There's people on Ea who think that the enslavement is a benefit, and those who are resisting. And so Siēshay's duality is, do I go with that loyalty, or do I fulfill the promise I made to Lavalia, which is CC, sing to the stars? And that is a metaphor for hope. So does she end the drone then and there, or does she save? And she chooses to save, and she uses the resonance fork to embed a memory and free 4721, who then at that point is an individual, and she remembers her name as Lyra.
And so let's back this up and unpack it a little bit. When they're a drone, and a drone speaks, who's listening?
So there's different, classifications within the Zenitharian system. And you kind of learn that as you read. We haven't got to some of it. But a drone is like the worker bee, if you will. They choose, and they're a civilian, and they form a special purpose to work or produce this kind of thing. And so when they speak, only the lattice hears, because the drones are not typically integrated with other civilizations. They're in a commune, if you will, and they only get feedback from each other because they're programmed to be that way.
So is 4721 then a plot point, or is 4721 a symbol?
Both of those things. So if you're at this point in the story, you're starting to see Lyra, and what is the point of it? Yes. So Lyra is the symbol of hope and what is to come. And there are plot points that continue, but you'll just have to read further to see what happens.
So we kind of covered that sort of emergence, that giving that lived memory back to a drone. What's the risk of this, and why is that an act of rebellion or resistance?
So again, it depends, but it depends on how impactful that has to the system, and that's purposefully vague. So just that a particular drone's memory is freed isn't necessarily in and of itself an act that would cause a war or the Xenotherians to attack. It's what comes after. And so that's not always clear in this universe when that happens. But because there are bigger things at play, I guess is maybe the way to say it, this one matters. And that's why it's the focal point of the story, or how it starts.
And so here we are. We have Lyra's emergence. She's a symbol of hope. Talk to me about how her voice, her agency evolves here or awakens here, and what is that ripple impact of drone liberation? What is going on with that?
Yeah, so in the very first line, the first scene, we get that trace of it. She has the memory of making perfume with her daughter, and so in this scene, she's going away from that hive mind mentality, one purpose, one harmony, we hold together, and she's becoming an individual, and that really is triggered by pain. And so if you read in that scene in the novel, Siēshay says something, you'll receive your harmony through pain. And so that motif, that in order for a person to fully grow, it does take them going through their trials and their tribulations to fully form. And so we start to see that evolve as we go forward.
And so I'm going to ask a question, and you may or may not have an answer for this, but my biggest takeaway at this point in time is that the fracture isn't just in the system. It's in the lack of certainty that Siēshay has. What does it say about a system when the only ones who remember weren't supposed to?
So we do see fracture. And in Siēshay's character, it's an interesting moment because she is, in that moment, making good on her promises she made to her sister, that she would sing to the stars, that she wouldn't just be the general and this sort of monster, if you will. But she also feels compelled to help the people on her planet, and that requires something of her where she feels like she can't show weakness. And it's coming, maybe I'll spoil a little bit, but one of her nicknames is the Butcher Queen, and it's a persona that she takes on when she has to harden herself to what is going on in the moment and be that warrior personality to make the hard decisions. And so this act of hope is duplicitous in a way, in that she is struggling with her loyalties and how she should and where they should lie. Is it a personal thing, or should she be this monster that in a way winds up helping her people? But she's conflicted. She's like, I'm not sure if that's really helping or not.
And we see that so many times, and in many other sci-fi and fantasy and intense novels such as this, that am I a protagonist? Am I a hero? Am I a villain? Am I the bad guy in my own story or the good guy in my own story? Like, what we're really seeing that start to emerge in this character. And so I know that we have so much more that we could dive into, but for that, I don't want to spoil what's coming. So I'm going to stop right there and encourage anybody who hasn't, pick up the book, read the first couple of chapters, send in your questions. What are you thinking? Because next time, ish will hit the fan. We're going to talk battles. We're going to talk betrayals. we want to hear from you. Make sure you read the first chapter before our next episode. How would you like people to reach out to you?
Go to festivalsandtrials.com. Go connect. Find God Gettings on social media. Reach out on Facebook. Let's have a conversation, and really would love to hear from you. As we go into writing the rest of the series into books 2 and 3, it's very important that people have their voice in what happens next. I think that'll be very interesting. So I'm very curious to hear how this is resonating for you, and we will see you the next time.
Perfect. Send us your questions, especially all about memory tech, emotional coding, that's very inconvenient empathy. And remember, it's not just what the lattice says, it's what refuses to forget.
We reclaim what remembers. See you next time.